Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep. In this particular UPSC simplified series, today we are going to discuss one more question from UPSC mains PYQ. Now, in this question, you can see this is on the location of cotton textile industry. So let's read what question is saying. So question is asking about the decentralization of cotton textile industry in India. Question reads, analyze the factors for highly decentralized cotton textile industry in India. So if you look at the topic in mains, there is a topic on industrial location of primary, secondary and tertiary industries in India and around the world. And on that particular topic, you can see this particular question. Now let us see the context or locus of the question. Now locus is very simple. It's all about the location of cotton textile industry or the way the location of cotton textile industry is determined. Fine. And in focus, we have to talk about the decentralization which has had happened in last few years. If you look at the data of last few years or the nature of cotton textile industry in last few years for India, you will find now cotton textile industry is fairly distributed all throughout the India, and that is what this decentralization of cotton textile industry we are supposed to answer. Now we will identify, or we are supposed to identify what factors have contributed for this particular decentralization of cotton textile industry, right? So we already have set a framework on what we are supposed to write in this question. So we have identified a locus, we have identified a focus. Now we will move on to the question directly. So in answer, what you are going to write, that can be your intro part. So look at the intro part. In this particular question, there is absolutely nothing which you can define. Fine. What is the other way you can approach for the introduction? So other way can be mentioning any fact. Now, as we mention any fact, this fact needs to be relevant with the question. Look at the context or look at the question, and accordingly you are supposed to mention facts. Now I have just given you two cases. What two facts I can mention about cotton textile industry in India? One fact is the cotton textile industry in India is the largest employer. This can be one fact you can start with. Another fact you can start with is the locations of cotton textile industry all across the country. If you look at the locations of cotton textile industry all across the country, what you will find that Mumbai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, Kanpur, so on and so forth. So this is not a exhaustive list. This list can go on and on. But when I say Mumbai, Kolkata, Bengaluru or Kanpur, these are some major cotton textile centers or major cotton textile hubs in India. So these are two facts which I have presented with you. Now you have to make a choice on which fact suits as an introduction for your question. Now if I am to choose a fact between these two, I would rather go with the second fact. Second fact, it links you with the question. So time and again I will tell you, even in last session I have told you, always introduce in such a manner that you will end up reflecting what has been asked in the question, or at least there would be some passing reference to the question. If I mention this particular fact that cotton textile industry is the largest employer in this country, right? So rather not we'll say largest employer, it is one of the largest employer. A lot of employment is generated by cotton textile industry. That is something I'm suggesting here. But though this fact is very correct, you might end up writing a precise number also. That would also be very impressive, but this is not going to connect you with the question. So always remember, connect introduction with your question, and that is why I'm going to mention this particular fact in my introduction. So that is my simple and sweet introduction. Moving on to next part of the question, that is body. Now again, body part I have divided it into two. First part I'm going to highlight is the location of cotton textile industry or the factors which determine the location of cotton textile industry. Now see this question. Have we been asked about the factors which determine the location of cotton textile industry? No, we have not been directly asked on the factors which are going to determine the cotton textile industry. But even then, what I will do, I'll spend some 20 to 30 words on this particular part. Why? Because that is how I'm going to set the context, or that is how I'm going to set the locus, right? I'll be mentioning, see, these are the particular factors which determine the location of cotton textile industry. When you have mentioned these particular factors, only then you can argue about the reasons which are going to decentralize cotton textile industry. Unless you do not present what are the factors which determine location of a particular industry, there is absolutely no point in saying that how it is going to get decentralized, or how it has been decentralized, right? So that is the purpose. Understand my purpose. I am setting a locus. I will spend some 20 to 30 words on saying what are all the factors there which are determining location of cotton textile industry. That is one part. Now I can spend some words, 20 to 30 words. There is one more approach I can use. I can draw a diagram, right? There can be a sun diagram. Sun diagram as in, I'll say these are the factors of cotton textile industry. I'll show all the factors, be it raw material, capital, labor, so on and so forth. As I have highlighted all these factors, now I do not need to spend more words. I'll just write these factors and move on. Okay? So I can also save some word limit here. So that is something which is very essential. There is one more point which I need to mention. I have highlighted it in red. You can see that cotton textile industry in today's day and age can be considered as a footloose industry. This particular keyword is very much essential in your answer. Okay? So again, footloose industry is what? Which can be set up anywhere. So you do not need to define what footloose industry is, but at least you are supposed to mention that cotton textile industry is a type of footloose industry. And that is the reason, or that is the precise reason why we are witnessing decentralization of cotton textile industry in India. Right? Now you are directly hitting to the right point. Okay? So if you do not mention this particular point, you may end up losing half or 1 mark. And if you highlight this particular point, you perfectly set the tone for your answer. Now, in part 2, I'll directly mention what all aspects are there, or what all factors have played a role in decentralization of cotton textile industry. Now, these are list of factors. I have some 6-7 factors which I have mentioned. Abundance of raw material across different states. If you look at the cotton production in India, it is not limited to a particular region. There are good number of states which are producing cotton in good quantity these days. Good quality cotton is being produced in India across the states. Then, if you look at the location of cotton textile industry, there are two locations which you can find. There can be a location which is proximal, or which is near to the cotton textile industry. Now, it's a footloose industry. So it can either be located in and around cotton producing area, or it can be away from the cotton textile industry, cotton producing area. So we can have decentralization के फैक्टर में एक ये हो सकता है कि लोकेशन जो है वो कॉटन के प्रोडक्शन के एरियाज के पास हो या उसके अवे होगा. ये दोनों भी चीजें आपको यहाँ पर दिखाई देगी. दैट इज समथिंग यू आर सपोज टू मेंशन. किसी रॉ मटेरियल इज वन फैक्टर, दैट इज व्हाई वी हैव प्रॉक्सिमिटी टू दिस पर्टिकुलर एरियाज. कल्टीवेशन के एरिया के इन एंड अराउंड आपको लोकेशन दिखाई देगा. देन labor force is one more determining factor. If you look at the industries in Mumbai and Bengaluru, these are the industries which are based on the availability of labor. Fine. So I'll see labor is one factor, and now labor in India is well distributed all throughout the country. So I will also give some examples. Let's say Mumbai and Bengaluru can be my examples in this particular case. Lower capital intensity and suitability for small and medium scale enterprises, that is one more factor which is responsible for decentralization, right? If it required a lot of capital, then it would have located in a very particular pockets, or very urban pockets, or very metro pockets, right? But we find cotton textile industry in Kanpur, which is a tier 2 city, right? And in such tier 2 cities, financial capital is very less. Even then we have cotton textile industry, right? Because it does not demand such a abundant amount of capital. Then there are some government policies also for regional development. So as a result of these policies, many backward areas in India have witnessed the growth of cotton textile industry. So you can give some examples of cotton textile industry which are located in and around Raipur or Chhattisgarh, but these are very minute examples. Maybe a lot of people know about it, maybe not, right? So in this particular part, you need to be careful. You are supposed to write examples which are fairly known. ठीक है. सो बैकवर्ड एरियाज जो है, बैकवर्ड एरियाज के कुछ आपको एग्जांपल यहाँ पर पुट करने और उसमें आप हाईलाइट करेंगे गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज जो है, गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज यहाँ पर इंस्ट्रूमेंटल रही है. देन मार्केट, this is very important point when it comes to the market of clothing industry in India. ठीक है, अगर आप क्लोथिंग मार्केट देखें फ्रॉम साउथ टू नॉर्थ, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ वेराइटी और हर मार्केट की अपनी एक लोकल रिक्वायरमेंट है एंड अकॉर्डिंगली you will find growth of cotton textile industry in those local pockets. ठीक है, तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर है, मेजर फैक्टर है which is going to decide the decentralization of cotton textile industry. Then flexibility and adaptability to changing market demand. That is again this particular point, this can be clubbed together. These are 2 points which are indicating to a same thing. ठीक है, तो that is something we have seen. Local markets बहुत flexibility demand करते हैं, adaptability demand कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सबकी अपनी अपनी टेस्ट अलग है. Development of diverse textile clusters in different state, ये एक बहुत ज्यादा करंट अफेयर्स बेस्ड पॉइंट है. आप देखेंगे टेक्सटाइल पार्क या टेक्सटाइल क्लस्टर्स, दीज आर बीइंग डेवलप्ड इन लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स और हर किसी स्टेट में जो भी बैकवर्ड एरियाज रहे हैं वहां पर ये पॉलिसी को इंप्लीमेंट किया गया था टेक्सटाइल क्लस्टर या टेक्सटाइल हब्स को डेवलप करने में. ठीक है, और उस कारण से भी आप यहाँ पर देखेंगे कि देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन ऑफ कॉटन टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री. ठीक है, सो दीज आर ऑल द पॉइंट्स व्हिच आई एम गोइंग टू डिस्क्राइब or highlight in my answer. Now if you look at this particular part, I have put these particular points very randomly, right? So there is no proper sequence and as a answer यहाँ पर मैंने कुछ तो भी आपको बताने के लिए इसको मैंने बहुत रैंडम पुट किया था. My purpose is कि इतने सारे पॉइंट्स आप थोड़ा सा स्ट्रक्चर भी कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, do not write in this random way. Why? Because it does not generate any link or it does not generate any major observations which you are going to make about any particular topic. Now see, when I am saying that there is a decentralization and there are some factors which are decentralizing cotton textile industry in India, and if I make subgroups of this factor, so that is a particular point which I have identified. ये areas है, like let us say there are government policy which are responsible for decentralization, and in government policy I can talk about government's approach of regional development. That can be my one point here, and then I can talk about government creating textile cluster. Then I will talk about market. ठीक है, मार्केट की अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट है, उसके जितने भी मार्केट रिलेटेड पॉइंट्स है आई विल राइट इन हियर. देन आई विल ऑल्सो talk about, let us say, labor can be my one point. Here I will put labor and then I will also mention some raw material ka point. So you can write these points directly one after another. You can write these particular points. Another way is categorize these particular points in different subsets, and in my opinion categorizing these particular points in different subsets is a better approach to build your answer. ठीक है, so that is how I am going to structure my answer. So I have told you introduction में what I am going to write. So in here I will spend some 20 words or so. In part A I will barely spend some word. Let's say I will spend some 20 words plus one diagram. That will be my part 1 of the body. In part 2 I will give, let's say, 80 to 100 words I will use here. Moving on to the map part. In every geography question you can either have diagram or map or both, but there can be no question where you will draw none, right? So in map what I am going to show, I am going to show what are the different centers where cotton textile industry can be found. So there would be Kanpur, Ahmedabad, Surat can be there, Mumbai is there, ठीक है. Then there can be Solapur, Nagpur, there is Akola, then there is Bengaluru, so on and so forth. So you can very well show all the entries on the map. And in conclusion, what I am going to write, or what are the ways in which you can write your conclusion. So you can say, you see, this is right that there has been decentralization of this particular industry, but there are certain problems, and with the technological upgradation we can overcome those particular problems. Okay, that can be one way of concluding. I am giving you another way of concluding. See, this is one of the highest employer in the country. Okay, and since it is one of the highest employer in the country, it can contribute to balanced regional growth. It can bring in balanced regional growth, and that is why we should focus more in developing this particular area. Okay, so that is how I'm going to construct my answer. So see you again in next part. Till then, have a good time.